Habib Mahakian is the Vice President and the Managing Director for Dell Technologies South Africa. He's our next guest on this episode of What's Next. It's a great pleasure to welcome him here. He's actually not just the Managing Director of Dell South Africa, but he's got a massive portfolio. He is, as I mentioned, the Managing Director and Vice President for Dell Technologies South Africa, but he's based in Dubai. He spent more than 20 years leading digital transformation and businesses across the Middle East, emerging markets, Middle East, Africa. So he really understands our market here and where we are in South Africa. He's a seasoned expert in scaling technology and operations and really driving innovation across businesses. He's doing remarkable work with Dell, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him here. I know him for many, many years. Habib, it's so good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Aki, and I'm doing great. And I did not know that I have all these good things that you mentioned.
Well, there's a lot more. There's a lot more things that I've learned about you over the years, but I'm hearing wonderful things at Dell Technologies South Africa, and you've got such an amazing history of where you've come into this technology game, because I'm always fascinated to where did people find that inspiration growing up. I know you were born in Kuwait. You've spent years in Jordan as well. So you really are...
and I'm an Armenian.
And you're an Armenian, and you've been in the area for a long time. So you really understand the business in those areas. When you look back at your childhood and growing up, is this something that you always wanted to do? Was technology part of your DNA growing up? When did you realize this is what I'm going to do growing up?
You are just exposing my age, and you know.
We're the same age, let's be honest here.
But when we talk at that time, maybe there was no technology as such, but there were other things, you know. First of all, I'm an only child to my parents. So, you know, you don't have time to fight with your brothers and sisters, you know. So you focus. And at that time, I liked puzzles, Lego, if you know, and building things and putting things together. And I like playing footballs at school and at the neighborhood. So thinking of that, like building Legos, puzzles, it's solving things rather than, you know, so putting things together and building them and playing in a team. And I wanted always to be the captain of that team, you know, just if to want to reflect about leadership and management, maybe that can reflect to that extent of solving problems and building teams and leading. So
okay, but you studied a Bachelor of Science and Electrical Engineering, I think in Jordan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, and I guess it was at that time, because we're more or less the same age, that, you know, those personal computers are starting to come out, the ZX Spectrums of the world, so you could start doing things. You know, growing up, you mentioned Lego. I used to take the radios apart in the house and the television to try and understand how on earth a signal came in wirelessly into this box and was, you know, showing visuals. But the early days of computers and the internet hadn't quite started then yet. But you must have had something when you were studying at university, electrical engineering in Jordan, that there was something big coming. There was a big revolution coming our way when you saw the signals then. And of course, you talk about your leadership, having the one who always wanted to lead and that sort of thing. That must have lit a fire back then when you were at university as well.
Definitely. I'm a curious person as in nature. You know? I like to know things and to get things and how what we were talking before the podcast. But at university, it's electrical, but in the electrical we had different sections, and I was in the computer section. So there is power, there is electromechanical, and there is computer engineering.
Yes.
So in that sense, the logic, you know, we had subjects called logic, the zeros and ones, and how to build things logically, and how to structure the what if then, you know, in software development, you need to do, at that time there was Fortran 77 and things. And then the first PC came.
Fortran, yes.
You remember, there was BASIC, then Fortran.
Yes, and then Visual Basic after that, if I'm not mistaken.
And that was like for the kids.
Yes.
We were the oldies. So, but the PC, the first PC, it came I was in the third year of university, and we had PCs and the floppy disk, the 360.
That's right.
You remember?
Can you remember the kind of PC that was then around?
Yes. It's called Coradata. And I remember IBM came and pitched to us to sell us the first AT, to buy 2 PCs, and we were in the board of selecting the right, it's amazing to see what happened. And that was more advanced because it was 8088 at that time. It started 8086.
Yes.
The processor.
That's right. That's right.
And
monochrome screen, it was green or orange.
Green, yeah. And then also we had the floppy, it became 1.2 instead of the 360. So it's 4 times, right?
Yes.
720.
And that was such a big move.
And it's ironic how it come. But back to the university and the logic and how it affected, because curiosity, I loved logic. We had a lot of, the NAND and the AND gates. I don't know if you've studied engineering, but it was a lot of things. And what I learned, so I remember a project that we had to build a game in a board.
Yes.
Okay. So building a game in a board, you need to design and different chips to come and do things. However, at that time, there was a chip that can do everything, and nobody knew about it. It was in the lab, but nobody looked at it. So when we went with our final discussion, and all my colleagues brought big boards, putting the input to see the output to make sure that it's working, my board was 1 chip. It was EEPROM. You program it and you get the results. So the professor said, "What is this?"
I was about to say, what did your professor say?
I said, "You told me to solve the problem, right? You want the game. You need to put an input and to get an output." He said, "Yes." I said, "Did you try it?" He said, "Let's try it." He puts the input and all the outputs. I said, "Why I need to complicate things if I can do it in a chip?" He said, "But this is not doing the right thing." I said, "I'm not cheating. Actually, I solved the problem that you wanted in the easiest way." And I got a full mark on that, by the way, because he could not argue.
100%.
The purpose was to build the whole thing, right, in a more difficult way to solve it. But if you can solve it, so that opens a lot in our business. Sometimes you come with a big problem. The solution can be very simple if you have a different vision on it. And this is how it helped in my career and how looking at things rather.
What an amazing story, because and I guess that is actually one of the ways that Dell operates. If you think about finding solutions for your customers, and if I'm not mistaken, you recently celebrated a 25-year-old milestone at Dell. So that's a long time being in an organization. You've held various positions. I think you've even been the country manager for Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Started there, yeah.
You started there, and you've been all over the place. But 25 years is a long time to be in an organization. Well, it's over 25 now. What is it about Dell that has made you stay so long?
So, first, you need to have the right culture, right? The cultivating platform to help people to flourish and grow, right? So the culture, the ethical way of we address winning, the people, how we tackle teamwork within the organization.
Right.
But even if you have that, you can get bored, right?
Yes.
So how to grow and the potential to grow, every 3-4 years, I have a new assignment. You change. Like, for example, now South Africa is new for me. It's 1 year now. It's exciting for me and exciting to the business. And so for the last 25 years, every 3-4-5 years, I change a position. I take a different challenge. I like problem solving, right?
Well,
and I've been covering from Pakistan, Afghanistan to Morocco, up north to Tunisia, Middle East definitely, and now the lovely South Africa. So it's exciting. And at the end of the day, you need to put the purpose, right? We said about culture, growth, and purpose. And today we don't sell technology. And what we sell is solutions to the customers and value. And as long as we are selling the value and the customer are seeing us as advisors, it becomes a different thing. And the beauty, if you see different cultures with different type of customers, that's also keeps you giving and staying the 25 years.
But you know what's interesting for me is that most people spend their careers in a country. They don't get to see so many different cultures across their career. I mean, I haven't worked in another country. All I've worked is I may have worked in different cultures in companies in South Africa, but you've just mentioned Afghanistan, Morocco, Pakistan, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. They're such diverse countries, different continents, Africa, Asia, even Europe. You didn't mention Europe, but I did my research. You've been in Europe as well, and the Middle East. So working in all those countries, every country has got its own culture, its own unique ways of doing business. What have you learned about leadership as a professional, being involved and being exposed to so many different cultures? Because it's different every time.
First, this was my blessing in my work, you know. This experience to see the cultures and learn from them. It builds a lot in the character of a person, and you know, and gives you humility. You know, you are humble because you want to listen. When you go to a new culture, it's nice to learn and to understand, and there is no management style that fits all, right?
Yes.
On the other hand, we are all human. There are certain behaviors and certain drivers that we all share. People like to win, like to be heard, like to be recognized, right? So understanding that for each culture and reflecting it back to them, that's where the success. So in Africa, every country. So from outside, for you as an African, when you see the Levant countries, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, all that area, you believe they are the same, right? Each one has a different things.
Yes.
For us, before, in Africa, we say like Kenyans are like the Tanzanians, the Ugandans, the Ghanaians,
yes,
the Nigerians. But when you start going into the cultures,
very different.
Very different, very different. And this is where you need to adapt as a leader to ensure that you listen and understand the culture differences, but bring them together to one goal. Because now we manage a bigger region with one goal. We need to be successful. And we need to learn from each other. It's not a ghettos that we need to close. And this is the beauty of that. And this is what we are trying to do across our region.
You know, it's a very unique skill set that you've got. It's like the Swiss Army knife of leadership, because you've been exposed to these and learning to use you know, all the different tools in those particular different environments you've worked in is very, very impressive. So it's a year exactly that you've been a vice president, managing director of Dell South Africa. And look, you've always been involved in South Africa in some way or another. That's where we met before. But what have you learned in your first year about South Africa and South African business and the South African market? It's very different, as you've highlighted already, to other markets. What is South Africa to you, and why is the South African market so special and important to Dell?
What struck me here the most is the diverse culture and how the inclusion of everybody in our office, in the customers, and the potential. The potential here in South Africa, comparing to the other countries I've seen, it's enormous. And the knowledge that the people have, the customers, the partners, the team members, and the hospitality. The people were accepting to listen and to learn. But today, what we have and the potential that we have in South Africa, it's enormous. And this is what excites me. Because sometimes people have that, but as an outsider, you know, when you are inside the thing, you cannot see all the bigger scope, right?
Yeah.
But coming from outside and looking at the potential that is here and the young generation and the people that are here and the knowledge they have, we can do a lot of nice things. And we started, and the team in 1 year have done amazing things, and I'm proud of the team. And I believe the sky is our limit to deliver what we can do together. But also we need to open up outside, to learn from outside, and also take the experiences that we have here in South Africa to the other nations. Because it's important to cross-pollinate and bring the experiences from outside to here and take the experiences from here to outside. But I believe the potential is huge, the opportunities are amazing, and what we can do is nothing can stop us.
It's amazing. And I'm glad to hear you want to export ideas from here as well, because there's a lot of innovation that happens here. And of course, when you look at the infrastructure that we have, the data centers, the fiber and all that, you've been exposed to so many other markets around the world. We've got an incredible infrastructure in South Africa, don't we?
Definitely. And
it's world class.
Yes. Trust me, it's one of the best I've ever seen in my life, in Dell, in across all the countries. So you should be proud of that.
So when you look at your year, and I know it's a very short time because you've got a big vision for South Africa, what would you say is your biggest achievement you've achieved so far this year?
My message to the team was, we need to win championships. We don't want to win games.
You're an Arsenal supporter as well.
No. I'm a Barcelona, unfortunately, this year. But we are coming back.
Yes.
But basically what I want to say that today we need to promote a teamwork. Sometimes with the running and the business, people will focus on their goals, right? But I want to make sure that we have a bigger goal, a team goal.
Yes.
And that's the most important thing. I believe we are on the right track to achieve. Also, we're bringing the partners to the table, because the channel partners are important for us. They are extended arm of Dell, and they need to feel that they are part of the success and the equation of growth.
Yes.
So teamwork, being able to participate. So I promote people to come with ideas, and we are promoting this type of discussions within the office, and I want everybody to have a voice, because whether you are senior or a junior, you have ideas. And sometimes the great ideas come from junior people. And this is where I promote, and in the office I tend to speak with everyone and to see their ideas and what they can do to help the group, not to help the individual. Yes. And part of my philosophy is to learn from outside also, because definitely you need to see what the others are doing to benefit. We need to define it for us, and we take what we discussed before, what is good in South Africa outside. But if we want to grow here, we need to learn also from outside what are the things that are happening in a good way. And one of them that you mentioned, the AI and what is happening. And today there are a lot of good engagement with multiple organizations about that type of discussion. And earlier today I was discussing on one of the opportunities to come with great ideas that we can do here in South Africa. And
yeah, I mean, when you look back to your 25 years at Dell, it's a long time for someone in an organization, and your first role that you took all the way back then. Is there any advice that you would give yourself 25 years ago that you would use today, or adapt or tweak anything about your management style, or, I don't know, improve yourself? You could never predict where we are today in the world of AI, for example, but what advice would you give yourself 25 years ago?
Let me maybe rephrase the question in a way that what advice I will be telling the others, because for me it's done, right?
Yes.
Whatever, but whoever is starting this journey. So maybe at that time when we are young, we want to get things quickly, right? So we need to calm down, patience, be curious. I'm curious person. I'm passionate person. Sometimes over passionate, but people should be curious. Whoever is taking this, go outside of the box. For me, at that time, yes, I wanted to achieve things quicker, and maybe the environment helped me to grow because we were a smaller team and we grew, and then the business grew and the business grew, you know. So, for example, what we were achieving, for example, just to show the growth, that a revenue that we were doing in a year, we are doing today in a day.
Wow.
And that's a scale that
it's incredible. It's
have.
Incredible.
Okay? However, what I encourage people to be curious.
Never stop learning.
Definitely. You cannot live alone. You need to build teams. Trust your colleagues, trust the teams, trust the system, and trust the company. You know, because if you don't have the trust,
can't do nothing.
And challenge yourself. Don't accept no for an answer, right?
Yeah.
Back to the board, like the game. You can build things complex in a complex way, but if you think outside of the box, you can do it much simpler. So think outside of the box and try to work to your personal branding. And sometimes this is one of the things that the personal brand is important. Your image within your colleagues and you know, so some people might say this guy is difficult to work with, or this guy is great problem solver. So people do not tend to look at this branding when they are young, and I did not look at it. Maybe I would have worked on
being more aware of it, you know.
Exactly. And these are the recommendation I would give Habib 25 years ago, but I would give the new people that are on the way to start their leadership or management journey and to challenge them.
That's great advice. And also bearing in mind, you know, back then there was no things like social media. And today people do stupid things that have an effect long-term down the line in their career. So be careful. And I guess that what you said about your image, who you are, how you portray yourself, it can be used then and today because it stays with you for a long time.
I always, yesterday even we were talking about self-awareness is the most important thing.
Yeah.
For people to grow or to fade, right? If you are not self-aware of your issues and criticize yourself of where you need to improve and you believe that you are the greatest thing, you will never achieve where you want to go.
Yes.
So you need to be self-aware, take feedback, build on that, and acknowledge the feedback in a positive way and work on improving that. Once you achieve that role and that mentality, I believe you are on the right track to be a great leader.
When you look back 25 years, we were talking about AI and all the things that are happening today in the interview. I mean, can you believe that? Would you have ever believed that 25 years ago when you started at Dell, that we would be where we are today with the advances in technology and the things that we can do today with AI is making us, I mean, it's unstoppable. You cannot predict where the future is going to be. This is how powerful technology and computing has become. Could you have ever believed that 25 years ago? And where do you see it 5 years from now?
Even go 5 years back, you will not believe many things that is happening and the acceleration that we are having and the growth that we are seeing today from an AI adoption, you know. However, the coming 5 years, I believe a lot of things will happen, a lot of things will disappear, but a lot of good things will be coming. The potential of AI and robotics is, and robotics will be something that will be coming, because putting the AI and mapping it to life execution.
Yes.
And I believe many things will change. So I remember first when we were in the company, we had the mobile, the Nokia, the communicator, you remember? Then the Apple came and, but it will go beyond. Hopefully, we need to keep our human touch, because my issue is with the social media and the AI. Many people are becoming virtual people, and I hope that I like this physical touch and being face to face with people and with customers and with business. However, I believe a lot of things will change, hopefully to the positive.
Yes.
And people and humanity take all these positive things to the benefit of the human rather than anything else in a negative way.
Habib, the one thing that stood out about you when I first met you, and you were telling me a little bit about yourself, and I'm going back a few years, I remember you said to me this year, and I can't remember which year it was, but it's probably been the same every year. You said to me, I've spent more years, this year I've spent more days away from home than I've spent at home. That's how much you travel, because you had a big region, and you're still doing a lot of traveling. How do you balance your life when you're spending so much time away from home? How do you balance your life? How do you relax? What do you do to switch off from being plugged into Dell?
So, traveling, definitely it's not easy, and you can ask my wife on that. However, I believe we put a system that the weekend is a family. So I tend to be weekends in Dubai.
Yes.
Or wherever the family is. I like traveling, so I have a daughter in Dubai, daughter in London, and daughter in Australia.
Wow.
So we gather in certain places and we take vacations together. And my wife is going next week to Australia.
Grandchildren?
Not yet. One is married, two are still. But I like football, so Barcelona, as we discussed. So I switch off watching games. I like watches, and back to the mechanical things, how art and I like seeing watches, dealing with watches, and being with friends and switching off and learning. Definitely, learning does not mean just learning about technology. Learning about different things in life, and that's where people evolve.
Yes.
And you need to continue learning about everything else and seeing. So definitely I switch off.
Yeah.
But,
I'm fascinated what you said about watches. Is there one watch model that completely intrigues you with the mechanism that you love, and why is that?
Many. Don't go into that, because this needs another podcast.
I'll give you another podcast, but I'm fascinated by it because I have an interest in it as well, but not as deep as you. I'm just fascinated by the movements.
Maybe you are deeper. I don't know.
But I don't think so. But the movements are amazing. How these guys put the parts inside a watch is incredible.
Imagine you have a mechanical watch doing more than what a digital can do. Because first you have an art, right? You are seeing an art piece. And some watches, they call it minute repeater, it will give you the time by sound. You don't need to look at it. So it will tell you the time is now 10:47. You will see the 10 in a different tone, and the 40 in a different tone, and the 7 in a different tone. So you listen to that, and this is an example of some watches that are perpetual calendars. So the normal perpetual calendars are 400 years. It will give you till 2100, and then you need to change it. But imagine a mechanical watch that can give you accurately the moon phase and what is happening and the leap years for 4,000 years. This is mechanical, right? So it's a nice thing. And when you focus on that, you disconnect, right? Because it's art, science,
engineering,
and I watch a lot of exhibitions. Whenever I go to any country, I like to go and I like vintage watches, and it's.
Okay, well, in the next interview, I'm hoping we get your favorite watchmaker out.
There are many.
There are many, but they all do different things in excellence. But what a fascinating hobby you have there. Habib Mahakian, I've really, really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for your time. Congratulations on what you've achieved in just a year here in South Africa at Dell Technologies. Congratulations on your 25th anniversary at Dell Technologies. Vice President and Managing Director for Dell Technologies South Africa. Habib Mahakian, thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Next.
Thank you so much. And I'm telling you, also watch, like in 2 weeks, we have Dell World.
Yes.
In Vegas. So
in May, every May, yes.
Yes, we will have a big announcement, and we are looking forward for our customers and partners, and we are anticipating to be the largest this year also. Every year we are growing, and we look also in November to have Dell Technology.
Dell Technology South Africa, the biggest technology event on the continent.
I'm looking forward. It was amazing. And by the way, it was the second largest in the world.
In the world, that's right. That's right.
It's amazing, and I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of the partners, the customers. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you, Aki.
Thank you very, very much. Absolutely. And a privilege for me to be part of that event as well. So I really look forward to that event every single year. The Dell Technologies Forum that happens in South Africa, and I think Kailami again, probably this year. It's the only venue that can host that size show. It's amazing. And if you haven't been yet, make sure you get there.
Please.
Well, there we go. That's it. This episode of What's Next, a fascinating individual, the Vice President and Managing Director of Dell Technologies South Africa.